September 27th, 1942, 3 hours before dawn. Sergeant Yakov Pavlov knows the man sitting across from him in the dugout is going to be dead by sunrise. He knows this because the man, Private Yakov Chernigolov, is holding a photograph too tightly. His thumb keeps rubbing the corner of it, over and over, wearing away the emulsion. When men hold photographs like that, when they cannot stop looking at faces they will never see again, they do not make it. They freeze at the wrong moment. They hesitate. They die. Pavlov wants to tell him to put the photograph away, but he cannot find the words. What would he say? Stop loving your wife. Stop remembering what you are fighting for? Instead, he checks his own weapon for the fourth time, fingers moving by memory in the darkness. The PPSH submachine gun is filthy with Stalingrad dust, but the bolt still moves smoothly. 50 rounds in the drum magazine. He has 3 more drums in his canvas bag. 150 bullets. Enough to kill maybe 30 Germans if he is lucky. Not enough to take a building and hold it against an entire army. Lieutenant Naumov gave them the order at midnight. His voice was flat and empty, like he was reading a death sentence, which, in a way, he was. 4 men, 900 meters of open ground under German observation. Seize the apartment building on January Square. Hold until relieved. That last word, relieved, hung in the air like a bad joke. Nobody gets relieved in Stalingrad. You fight until you die or until the war ends, and the war is never going to end. Pavlov chose his 3 men carefully, which is another way of saying he chose which 3 men would die with him. Private Alexander Alexandrov, 19 years old, Ukrainian, barely shaves, can field strip a Degtyaryov machine gun in 40 seconds, even in the dark. Private Anatoly Chernusov, 32, former coal miner, hands that shake except when he is killing people. And Private Yakov Chernigolov, 26, married 8 months before the war started, factory worker from the Urals, been in combat for 6 weeks, and still flinches every time a shell lands nearby. At 0400, they crawl out of the dugout into the ruins of the city. The sky above Stalingrad is never truly dark anymore. There is always the orange glow of fires, the sudden white flash of explosions, the green tracers of machine guns cutting through the smoke. The smell is what gets to you after a while, burning wood and diesel fuel and human beings. You stop noticing it after the first week. It just becomes the smell of the world. January Square is a killing ground, and everyone knows it. 300 meters of open plaza surrounded by German positions on 3 sides. Before the war, it was beautiful. Gardens, benches, a fountain with a bronze statue of a factory worker holding a hammer. Now the fountain is rubble, and the worker is face down in the dirt with his bronze head 10 meters away. The only thing left standing is the apartment building on the far side, 4 stories of red brick, windows like empty eye sockets. They wait for a German flare to burn out. The light dies, and the darkness rushes back in, and Pavlov runs. His boots hit broken pavement, broken glass, spent shell casings that ring like bells. Every step is waiting for the machine gun burst that will cut him in half. His lungs burn. His heart hammers so hard he can feel it in his teeth. 20 meters, 50 meters. He does not look back because if one of his men is down, there is nothing he can do. Behind him, he hears Alexandrov curse in Ukrainian as he trips over something. The machine gun clatters against stone. The sound is impossibly loud. They reach the building and throw themselves against the wall, gasping. Chernigolov is shaking so hard the grenades on his belt rattle. Chernusov is praying under his breath, the same Orthodox prayer he says before every fight. Protect us from evil and deliver us from temptation. Pavlov does not pray anymore. He stopped believing in God somewhere around the 3rd week of September when he watched an artillery shell land directly on a column of evacuating civilians, women and children, just gone. If God exists, he is not paying attention to Stalingrad. Pavlov signals with 2 fingers. I look. You cover. He edges to the entrance. The door hangs crooked on one hinge. Inside, it is darker than the outside, a different quality of dark, the kind that hides things. The smell hits him first. Explosives, blood, decay. Something else underneath. Something worse. He peers around the frame. The entrance hall is destroyed. Plaster everywhere. Ceiling beams exposed. A body at the foot of the stairs. German uniform, face down, flies crawling on the back of his neck. Dead maybe 48 hours. On the stairs above him, Pavlov hears something move. A boot scraping. A cough. Germans. At least 2. He pulls back and motions to his men. Alexandrov sets up the machine gun, feeding the belt, pulling the charging handle twice. Chernusov pulls a grenade from his belt, pin in his fingers, waiting. Chernigolov stares at Pavlov with eyes that are too wide, pupils blown from fear or exhaustion or both. His lips are moving. Pavlov realizes he is saying his wife's name over and over like a prayer. Tatiana, Tatiana, Tatiana. Pavlov puts his hand on the kid's shoulder and lies to him. You are going to be fine. We are all going to be fine. They are going to write songs about today. They go through the door like a flood. Pavlov takes the stairs 3 at a time. Weapon up, finger on the trigger. The Germans are on the landing above him. He sees them in fragments, snapshot images burned into his brain by adrenaline. One man fumbling with his rifle, safety still on, face white with surprise. Another reaching for a stick grenade on his belt, mouth open to shout a warning. Pavlov fires. The PPSH bucks in his hand, spitting out bullets at 800 rounds per minute. The recoil walks the muzzle up and right, but at this range, it does not matter. The first German takes 3 rounds in the chest and goes down. The second one gets the grenade off his belt, but Chernusov is already there with his bayonet. The grenade is loose, rolling, pin already pulled, 3-second fuse. Pavlov grabs it and throws it blind through the nearest doorway. The explosion is massive in the confined space. The concussion lifts Pavlov off his feet and slams him into the wall. His ears are ringing. He cannot hear anything except a high-pitched whine. Dust and smoke everywhere. Something wet running down the side of his face. He touches it. Blood. He does not remember being hit. They cleared the second floor room by room. This is not like the battles you read about in books. This is blind terror punctuated by seconds of incredible violence. A door opens and Chernusov fires through it without looking. A scream. Another door, and this time there is a German inside. Very young, maybe 17, surrendering with his hands up, but Chernogolov's rifle is already firing, and the boy falls, and Chernogolov keeps firing until the magazine is empty, and he is screaming, and Pavlov has to grab him and shake him. Stop, stop. He is already dead. In the corner of one room, they find an old man. Russian, civilian. He is curled into himself, arms wrapped around his head, and he does not look up when they enter. Pavlov crouches next to him. Grandfather, grandfather, you need to go to the basement. Hide. The man does not respond. His eyes are open, but they are not seeing anything. Shock or madness. Chernusov has to physically drag him to his feet and push him toward the stairs. 3rd floor, 4th floor, empty. The Germans abandon the upper levels. Pavlov reaches the roof access and kicks the door open and steps out into the pre-dawn air. From here, he can see everything. The whole cursed battlefield laid out like a tactical map. The Volga River to the east, gray and sluggish, lifeline of the city. Soviet positions dug into the rubble 300 meters away. German lines to the west, stretching north and south as far as he can see. And this building, this single apartment block, sitting right in the middle like a chess piece that can see the entire board. Alexandrov is setting up the machine gun, hands moving fast, professional. Chernusov is counting ammunition, 6 magazines for Pavlov's PPSH, maybe 400 rounds for the machine gun, 11 grenades, 1 PTRD anti-tank rifle with 8 rounds, enough for 1 fight, maybe 2 if they are lucky. Chernigolov sits with his back against the low wall around the roof, staring at nothing, still trembling. The sun comes up at 05:43, beautiful and terrible, golden light spilling across the ruins. And with the light comes sound. Engines, diesel, heavy. Pavlov crawls to the edge and looks down into the square. 4 German half-tracks, 30 infantry dismounting. They are not running. They are walking, casual, confident. They think the building is still theirs. They think this is a routine resupply. Pavlov watches them come closer. 100 meters. 80. His finger rests on the trigger, but he does not fire. Not yet. Let them think they are safe. Let them get close enough that they cannot get away. 60 meters. 50. The lead soldier lights a cigarette. Another one is laughing at something his friend said. They are boys. 18, 19, 20 years old. They have mothers and girlfriends and favorite foods and dreams about after the war. In about 10 seconds, Pavlov is going to kill as many of them as he can, and he feels nothing about this. He used to feel things: guilt, mercy, horror. Stalingrad burned all of that out. All that is left is the animal part of his brain that knows how to survive. 40 meters. The soldier with the cigarette looks up at the building. For a fraction of a second, his eyes meet Pavlov's. He sees. His mouth opens to shout. Alexandrov opens fire. The Degtyaryov sounds like the world ending, a sustained roar that echoes off the ruined buildings. The lead squad disappears in a storm of bullets and dust. Men go down. Men try to run. Men try to return fire, but they have no cover, nothing but open ground and death raining down from above. Pavlov is firing now, short bursts, picking targets. A soldier trying to set up a machine gun, an officer shouting orders, a man dragging a wounded comrade. Chernusov and Chernigolov are at the windows below, rifles cracking. One of the half-tracks tries to move forward, turret traversing toward the building. Chernusov appears with the PTRD, the long anti-tank rifle braced against his shoulder. The report is enormous. The heavy slug punches through the thin armor of the half-track, and something inside explodes. The vehicle slews sideways, smoke pouring from every opening. The Germans break. They run back toward their own lines, leaving their dead, leaving their wounded, leaving their equipment. It takes maybe 2 minutes from first shot to last. When the silence comes back, it is deafening. The square is covered in bodies. Pavlov counts them. 18 dead, maybe 10 wounded. The rest fled. Chernigolov is vomiting against the wall, retching until there is nothing left. His hands are shaking worse than before. Pavlov wants to tell him it gets easier, but that would be another lie. It does not get easier. You just get used to it. They spend the next hour preparing to die. They use furniture to barricade the stairwells. They knock out bricks to create firing ports. Chernusov shows them how to rig grenade traps. Pin-pulled, striker lever held down by thin wire. One pull and the whole thing goes up. Simple. Deadly. At 0700, Alexandrov goes down to the basement to check on the civilian they found. He comes back looking like he has seen a ghost. Sergeant, you need to come see this. The basement is packed. Not one civilian. 17. Women, old men, children. They have been living down here in the dark for weeks, surviving on scraps, drinking water from broken pipes. The smell is indescribable. Unwashed bodies and human waste and desperation. They stare at Pavlov with hollow eyes. A woman steps forward, older, maybe 60, gray hair tied back with a rag. Her name is Maria Ulyanova. She used to work at the bread factory before it was destroyed. She speaks clearly, voice steady. Are you here to evacuate us? Pavlov opens his mouth, closes it. He does not know what to say. The truth is too cruel. We are here to fight. We are not here to save you. If the Germans take this building, they will kill everyone in it. You should have left weeks ago. But looking at the children, skinny and dirt-covered and silent in the way that children should never be silent, he cannot say any of that. I do not know. We are here to hold this building. I cannot promise we can get you out. Maria nods like she expected this. Then we stay. We have been here this long. Maybe we can help. Some of us can carry ammunition. We can keep watch. We are still citizens. We can still serve. There is a little girl standing behind Maria. Maybe 5 years old. She is holding a doll that is missing an arm. The doll's dress is cleaner than the girl's. She has been taking care of it, keeping it safe, while the world burns around her. Pavlov looks at this child, and something breaks open inside him. Some wall he built to keep the war out of his chest. If we fail, she dies. If we run, she dies. If we do anything except win, she dies. He meets Maria's eyes. Stay quiet. Stay down here. If we have to evacuate, I will send someone. She thanks him, but he barely hears it. He climbs back upstairs, feeling like he is carrying stones. The second attack comes at 09:15. The Germans use smoke this time. White phosphorus grenades that billow thick cover across the square. Pavlov can hear them coming, but cannot see them. The crunch of boots. The clink of equipment. Commands in German. They are coming from 2 directions. Pincer movement. Professional. Alexandrov fires blind into the smoke. The machine gun tears through the white fog in long red fingers. Screams. Someone shouts for a medic. The smoke begins to clear, and Pavlov sees them 10 meters from the entrance, a full squad stacking up to breach. He pulls the pin on a grenade and counts to 2 and leans out of the window and drops it. Perfect arc. It lands right in the middle of them. The explosion lifts bodies off the ground. The second group tries to enter from the north side. Chernigolov is there with the PTRD. The anti-tank rifle is absurd overkill for infantry, but that is the point. The slug goes through 2 men and punches a hole in the wall behind them the size of a fist. The attack breaks. They pull back, dragging their casualties. Noon. The sun is directly overhead. Pavlov has not slept in 38 hours. His hands are shaking. He sits on the second floor landing and closes his eyes and immediately sees the little girl with the doll. He forces his eyes open. Sleep is dangerous. Sleep is where the war finds you. Alexandrov shakes him. They are coming again. How many? More than before. A lot more. Pavlov drags himself to the roof and looks out, and his stomach turns to ice. 60 infantry forming up on the western edge of the square. 2 Panzer tanks. More half-tracks. This is not a raid. This is an assault. They are going to level the building and kill everyone inside. Chernusov looks at him. What do we do? Pavlov has no idea. They have maybe 100 rounds left for the machine gun, 3 magazines for the PPSH, 5 grenades. The anti-tank rifle has 6 rounds. Not enough. Not nearly enough. The Panzers open fire. The first shell hits the 3rd floor. The explosion is massive. The entire building shakes. Debris rains down. The second shell hits the south wall and blows a hole the size of a car. The building is groaning, structural supports failing. Chernigolov is praying again, voice breaking. God protect us. God save us. The infantry is moving, using the smoke and dust as cover. They are going to overwhelm the entrance through pure numbers. Pavlov has seconds to make a decision. They can spread out, try to defend all 4 floors, die one by one. Or they can fall back to a single point, make the Germans pay for every meter, die together. Chernusov says something that changes the fight. The tanks cannot elevate their main guns high enough to hit the roof. If we stay up here, we can shoot straight down on them. They are blind. Pavlov stares at him. It is insane. It is perfect. He grabs Alexandrov. Machine gun to the roof. Southern edge. When those tanks get close, you fire straight down onto the crews. Blind them. Make them panic. Then to Chernigolov. You and the anti-tank rifle. Roof. You are shooting through the top armor, engine deck, ammunition storage. Top armor is thin. You can kill them. They scramble up. Pavlov and Chernusov stay on the second floor, covering the stairwell. This is the moment. This is where they live or die. The Germans come through the entrance like a wave. Pavlov waits until they are inside, packed shoulder to shoulder in the narrow hall, and then he fires. The PPSH empties its magazine in 5 seconds. The hallway is suddenly full of bodies and screaming and men trying to climb over their own dead. Chernusov is throwing grenades, one after another, no aiming, just lobbing them into the mass of men. The explosions are continuous, overlapping into a single roar. Above them, the machine gun opens up. Pavlov can hear it through the ceiling, the steady hammering of the Degtyaryov, then the sharp crack of the anti-tank rifle. Once, twice, 3 times. One of the Panzers lurches to a stop. Smoke pours from the engine. The hatches fly open and the crew bails out, hands empty just trying to escape the fire. Alexandrov cuts them down, all of them. Pavlov hears it. The machine gun does not stop until they stop moving. The second Panzer tries to reverse, but Chernigolov fires again. The round punches through the rear deck armor and the tank explodes. Not just fire. An explosion so violent it lifts the turret off the hull. Ammunition cooking off. The fireball rises 50 meters into the air. The infantry, seeing their armor burning, breaks. They run. Some of them do not make it. Alexandrov is still firing, tracking them across the square. Bodies dropping, men diving for cover that does not exist. It is not combat anymore. It is murder, necessary, brutal, unavoidable. Silence crashes down like a physical weight. Pavlov slides down the wall, legs giving out. His rifle falls from numb fingers. He tastes blood, but he does not know where it is coming from. His nose, his mouth, his lungs. He coughs, and it hurts so much he cannot breathe for a moment. Alexandrov appears, face black with powder residue, grinning like a madman. We killed 2 tanks. 2. with an anti-tank rifle. Pavlov wants to tell him to shut up, but he cannot find his voice. They count the cost. Ammunition almost gone. 50 rounds for the machine gun. 1 magazine for the PPSH. 2 grenades. The anti-tank rifle has 3 rounds. They have water, but no food. Chernusov is wounded, shrapnel in his left forearm, bone visible. He wraps it with a filthy rag and ties it tight with his teeth. Night falls. The temperature drops. Pavlov is on the roof, sitting with his back against the wall when he hears them. Voices, Russian voices, friendly. Lieutenant Ivan Afanasyev comes across the square with 24 men just after midnight. They move in short bounds, covering each other, professional. Afanasyev is young, 26 maybe, clean-shaven, looks like he should be teaching school, not leading soldiers, but his eyes are old. He finds Pavlov and does not waste time. Report. Pavlov tells him everything in short, clipped sentences. The capture, the attacks, the tanks, the civilians in the basement. Afanasyev listens without expression. When Pavlov finishes, he simply nods. You held. Now we turn this place into a fortress. The reinforcements spread through the building like ants. They bring ammunition, food, explosives, medical supplies. Most importantly, they bring hope. Pavlov watches them work and realizes this is not temporary. This is not a delaying action. They are digging in. They are staying. Afanasyev pulls him aside. You are staying too. You know this building now. You know how to hold it. Pavlov nods because there is nothing else to do. Where would he go? What would he do? This building is his world now. Midnight comes and goes. Pavlov sits on the second floor with his back against the wall and finally, for the first time in 40 hours, closes his eyes. Sleep comes fast, a black wall falling on him. But before it takes him completely, he thinks about the little girl in the basement with her one-armed doll. If we fail, she dies. He will not fail. Day 2. September 28th, 1942. Pavlov wakes to the sound of a child screaming. He is on his feet with his rifle in his hands before his brain catches up to his body. The scream comes again, high-pitched and terrified, from the basement. He takes the stairs 3 at a time, weapon raised, expecting Germans, expecting the worst. But when he reaches the bottom, he finds Maria Ulyanova holding a little boy, maybe 7 years old, while he thrashes and screams. Nightmare. Just a nightmare. The boy's mother sits against the wall, face blank, eyes empty. She does not move to comfort her son. Maria rocks him gently, whispering words Pavlov cannot hear. The boy's screams fade to sobs, then to silence. He opens his eyes and sees Pavlov standing there in his filthy uniform, rifle in hand, face hard. The boy stops crying. He stares. Then he asks in a small voice, "Are you my papa?" He is a soldier too, just like you. Pavlov feels something crack inside his chest. He opens his mouth, but no words come. The boy is still staring at him with eyes that are too old for his face. Maria meets Pavlov's gaze over the child's head. Her expression tells him everything. The father is dead. The mother knows, but she has not told the boy, because what words do you use to explain that kind of loss to a 7-year-old in the middle of hell? Pavlov crouches down so he is eye level with the boy. He reaches out and puts his hand on the kid's head, feels the greasy, unwashed hair, the skull underneath so small and fragile. I am not your papa, but I am a soldier, and I am here to keep you safe. The boy nods like this is enough. Maybe it is. Maybe that is all any of them have left. Small promises in the dark. He climbs back upstairs as the sun is rising. The building is already awake. Afanasyev has organized the defenses during the night. The stairwells are mined. The windows are sandbagged. The roof has firing positions covering every approach. 28 soldiers, counting Pavlov and his original 3. Not enough to hold the building indefinitely. Barely enough to make the Germans pay for taking it. Alexandrov is on the roof with the machine gun, scanning the square through a gap in the sandbags. Chernusov is on the second floor, arm bandaged, loading magazines one-handed. Chernigolov sits in a corner cleaning the anti-tank rifle with hands that still shake. He has not spoken since yesterday, since he emptied a magazine into a 17-year-old German boy who was trying to surrender. Pavlov wants to tell him it gets easier, but that would be a lie. Afanasyev calls the squad leaders together. His voice is calm, professional, but Pavlov sees the exhaustion in his eyes. The German 6th Army has approximately 250,000 men in Stalingrad. We are 28. They have tanks, artillery, air support. We have this building and whatever ammunition we can carry from dead men. The math is simple. We cannot win, but we can make them bleed for every meter. We can hold long enough for the counteroffensive. We can buy time with our lives. He does not say how much time. Nobody asks. The attacks begin at 0800, not a full assault, probing attacks. The Germans are learning. They send small groups from different directions, testing the defenses, looking for weak points. Pavlov watches from a third-floor window as a squad approaches from the north, moving from cover to cover, professional. He lets them get close. 50 meters, 30. Then Chernusov drops a grenade from the window above them. The explosion scatters them, 2 men down. The others retreat, dragging their wounded. Another attack from the south, another from the west. The Germans are coordinating now, trying to split the defenders' attention, but Afanasyev has positioned his men well. Each approach is covered. Each attack is met with grenades and rifle fire. By noon, the Germans have probed every angle and learned nothing, except that the building is defended by men who will not break easily. Across the square, in the ruins of what used to be a cinema, Lieutenant Werner Hartmann sits with his back against a wall and tries to understand what is happening. He is 23 years old. He has been in the Wehrmacht since 1940. He fought in France. He fought in the early days of Barbarossa, when the Red Army seemed to collapse before them like a house of cards. He has seen war, but he has never seen anything like this. Yesterday, they lost 18 men trying to take one building. And now his company commander, Hauptmann Dietrich, is ordering another attack. A full company assault, 140 men against however many Russians are inside. Maybe 10, maybe 50. Nobody knows. Hartmann looks at the men around him, boys mostly. Replacements who arrived 3 weeks ago from training depots in Germany. They have never been in combat. They do not know what is waiting for them across that square. He thinks about the letter in his breast pocket. From his wife, Greta. She is 5 months pregnant. He has not told anyone this. In the letter, she asks him to pick a name for the baby. If it is a boy, she wants to name him after his father. If it is a girl, after her mother. Hartmann has not written back because he does not know what to say. He does not know if he will live long enough to meet his child. Hauptmann Dietrich is briefing the platoon leaders. The plan is simple. Artillery preparation, smoke. Then infantry assault from 3 sides simultaneously. Overwhelming force. Standard doctrine. Dietrich speaks with confidence, but Hartmann sees the way his hands shake when he lights his cigarette. They have been in Stalingrad for 6 weeks. The city is eating them alive. Not in big dramatic battles, just a slow, grinding attrition. A sniper here, a mine there, men disappearing into cellars and never coming out. The Russians do not fight like a proper army. They fight like ghosts, like the city itself has turned against them. The artillery starts at 1,300, 6 guns. Not much, but enough. The shells scream overhead and slam into the building. The 3rd floor takes a direct hit. Part of the roof collapses. Smoke and dust billow up. Hartmann watches through binoculars, trying to see movement, trying to count how many Russians are inside. He sees nothing, just the building, battered but still standing, windows like empty eyes. The smoke grenades go out. White phosphorus, thick white fog rolling across the square. The whistle blows. First platoon moves. 40 men in a skirmish line, rifles ready, moving at a jog. Hartmann goes with them because that is what officers do. They die first. Inside the building, Pavlov hears them coming. The crunch of boots on rubble, the rattle of equipment. Commands shouted in German. He is on the 2nd floor with Chernusov and 3 other men. The smoke is everywhere, burning his eyes, filling his lungs. He cannot see 10 meters, but he can hear. He counts the footsteps, estimates the distance, waits. The first Germans reach the entrance. They stack up outside, preparing to breach. Pavlov lets them get organized, lets them think they have surprise. Then he pulls the wire. The grenade trap Chernusov rigged yesterday detonates. The explosion is massive in the confined space. Screaming, someone shouting for a medic. The smoke clears enough for Pavlov to see the entrance. 4 men down, maybe 5. The others are falling back, but more are coming behind them. A whole wave of field gray uniforms emerging from the smoke. Pavlov opens fire. Short, controlled bursts. The PPSH empties a magazine in seconds. He drops it, grabs another, keeps firing. Next to him, Chernusov is working the bolt of his rifle like a machine, brass casings pinging off the floor. The Germans are trying to push through, but the entrance is a fatal funnel. Bodies are piling up. Men are climbing over their own dead to get inside. One of them makes it to the stairs. Pavlov shoots him in the chest. He falls backwards, arms windmilling, and takes 2 more men down with him. On the roof, Alexandrov is firing the Degtyaryov in long, sweeping bursts, raking the square. He can see them through the smoke, shapes moving, trying to flank. He aims low, at legs and bellies, trying to wound rather than kill, because wounded men scream, and screaming breaks morale faster than death. The machine gun jams. He clears it, hands moving automatically, muscle memory, pulls the charging handle, fires again. Hartmann is in the square when he sees the machine gun nest on the roof. He shouts a warning, but it is too late. The Degtyaryov opens up, and the man next to him, a kid named Klaus from Stuttgart, goes down without a sound, just collapses like someone cut his strings. Hartmann grabs him, tries to drag him to cover, but there is no cover, just open ground and death falling from above. Klaus is looking at him. His mouth is moving, but no sound comes out. There is blood spreading across his stomach, dark and wet. Too much blood. Hartmann presses his hands against the wound, but it keeps coming, hot and slick between his fingers. Klaus stops moving. His eyes stay open. Hartmann leaves him there. He has no choice. He runs for the entrance because that is where his men are, and he can hear them dying. The smoke is thinning. He can see the building now. The doorway is choked with bodies. German bodies. He counts 7, 8, 10. The attack is falling apart. Men are running back toward their own lines. He tries to stop them, shouting orders, but they do not listen. They have seen too much. They are done. Inside the building, Pavlov watches them retreat. The square is full of dead and wounded. The Germans are dragging some of them back, but they are leaving most. He counts the bodies. 15, maybe 20. 140 men attacked. Maybe 100 are still able to fight. The math is working in their favor, but Pavlov knows it is temporary. The Germans have reinforcements. The Russians do not. Chernusov is reloading magazines, hands steady despite the wound in his arm. How many attacks is that? Pavlov has lost count. 5, 6. They are all starting to blend together. Chernusov lights a cigarette with shaking hands. His face is gray. The wound is infected. Pavlov can see the red streaks radiating from the bandage. Chernusov needs a doctor, needs antibiotics, needs to be evacuated across the Volga. None of these things are going to happen. Chernusov knows this. He smokes his cigarette and says nothing. Night falls. The temperature drops. Pavlov is on the roof, watching the square. The German wounded are still out there. He can hear them, crying for help, calling for their mothers. One of them has been screaming for 2 hours. The same word over and over. Wasser, water. Pavlov knows enough German to understand. The man is dying of thirst 30 meters away, and there is nothing anyone can do. The Germans cannot reach him without being shot. The Russians will not help him because he is the enemy. Alexandrov appears next to him. Should we shoot him? Put him out of his misery? Pavlov considers this. It would be a mercy, but it would also give away their position. And ammunition is precious. He shakes his head. Let him die. Alexandrov nods, but his face shows what he thinks of that answer. They both know it is the wrong choice. They both know it is the only choice. The screaming stops an hour later. Pavlov does not feel relief. He feels nothing, just a vast emptiness where his emotions used to be. Day 7, October 3rd, 1942. A pattern has emerged. The Germans attack in the morning. The Russians repel them. The Germans probe in the afternoon. The Russians hold. At night, both sides repair their defenses and count their dead. The building has been hit by artillery 47 times. 2 walls have partially collapsed. The roof has holes you can see the sky through. But the structure holds. Afanasyev has organized a supply line. Every night at midnight, a small boat crosses the Volga under cover of darkness. It brings ammunition, food, medical supplies. Sometimes it brings letters from home. Sometimes it brings replacements for the dead. Last night, it brought a sniper named Anatoly Chekhov, 24 years old, former factory worker, married. He sets up his position on the 4th floor and waits. Pavlov watches him work. Chekhov is patient. He does not fire unless he has a clean shot. He does not waste ammunition. He picks his targets carefully. Officers first, then machine gunners, then anyone stupid enough to expose themselves. By the end of the first day, he has 7 confirmed kills. By the end of the week, he has 19. But what Pavlov remembers most is the letters. Chekhov writes to his wife every night, long letters. He tells her about the weather, about the men he fights with, about small kindnesses in the middle of horror. He never tells her about the killing. He folds each letter carefully, puts it in an envelope, addresses it. Then he gives it to Pavlov. If I do not make it, send these. She should know I was thinking of her. Pavlov takes the letters. He has 11 of them now. He does not know if he will survive to send them, but he keeps them anyway. They feel important, like proof that they were human once. Day 15. October 11th, 1942. Chernigolov is dead, not killed by Germans, killed by exhaustion. He was on watch on the 2nd floor. He sat down for a moment to rest. He closed his eyes. He stopped breathing. Heart failure. His body just gave up. He was 26 years old. He had been married 8 months. Pavlov finds the photograph in his pocket. Chernigolov and his wife Tatiana on their wedding day. She is smiling. He looks terrified and happy at the same time. They bury him in the basement. There is no ceremony. Afanasyev says a few words. Chernusov prays. They cover him with rubble because they have no dirt. Maria and the other civilians watch in silence. The little boy who asked Pavlov if he was his papa starts to cry. His mother still does not move. She has not spoken in days. That night, Pavlov writes the letter. He does not know what to say. Your husband died bravely? That is a lie. He died sitting against a wall. Your husband was a hero? Also a lie. He was a terrified kid who shot a surrendering German and could not live with what he had become. In the end, Pavlov writes the only truth that matters. Your husband thought of you in the end. He wanted you to know that he loved you. He puts the letter in an envelope. He does not know if it will ever be delivered. Day 23, October 19th, 1942. The Germans change tactics. Instead of frontal assaults, they start using snipers. Long-range fire from the surrounding buildings. Men start dying in random places. Alexandrov is hit while sleeping. The bullet goes through the wall and into his shoulder. He survives, but the wound is bad. Chernusov's infection is worse. His arm is swollen, hot to the touch. He has a fever. He can barely hold a rifle. Afanasyev wants to evacuate him, but Chernusov refuses. If I cross the river, I am never coming back. I die here with my friends. Chekhov the sniper hunts the German snipers. It is a patient game. Hours of waiting for one shot. He gets 2 of them in 3 days. But on the 4th day, he makes a mistake. He exposes his position for half a second too long. A German sniper sees him, fires. The bullet hits Chekhov in the throat. He dies drowning in his own blood. Pavlov holds him while he dies. Chekhov tries to say something, but his throat is full of blood. He reaches into his pocket, pulls out a photograph. His wife. He looks at it. Then he dies. Pavlov takes the 11 letters and adds them to the growing collection of things to send to the dead men's families if he survives. Day 32. October 28th, 1942. Supplies are running low. Ammunition, food, medical supplies. The nightly boat has not come for 3 nights. The Volga is freezing. Ice floes make crossing dangerous. Last night, the boat tried and was caught in German searchlights. Artillery destroyed it. Everyone on board died. Pavlov watched from the roof. There was nothing he could do. They are down to 1 meal a day. Watery soup made from scraps. The civilians in the basement are starving. Children crying from hunger. Maria does her best to keep them calm, but there is only so much hope you can manufacture from nothing. One of the children, a girl maybe 4 years old, dies in the night. Malnutrition. Her body just gave up. They bury her next to Chernigolov. Pavlov goes down to the basement and finds the mother holding the dead child. She is not crying. She is just sitting there, rocking back and forth, holding her daughter like she is sleeping. Maria tries to take the body, but the mother will not let go. Pavlov has to pry her fingers open, one by one. The mother screams, a sound so raw and broken it does not sound human. The other civilians look away. There is nothing to say. There are no words for this kind of loss. Day 45, November 20th, 1942. Something changes. The German attacks become less frequent, less organized. Pavlov does not understand why until a runner comes across the river with news. The Soviet counteroffensive has begun. Operation Uranus, a massive pincer movement north and south of the city. The Germans are being surrounded. The Wehrmacht 6th Army is about to be trapped. The men in the building do not celebrate. They are too tired, too broken. But there is something new in the air. Not hope exactly, but maybe the absence of hopelessness. Maybe they will live. Maybe this is not a suicide mission. Maybe. But that night, something happens that breaks Pavlov in a way combat never could. He goes down to the basement and finds Maria sitting with the little boy who asked if Pavlov was his papa. The boy is not moving. Maria is crying silently. The boy died an hour ago. Starvation. She tried to feed him her own rations, but it was not enough. He just faded away. Pavlov picks up the small body. It weighs nothing, just bones and skin. He carries him to the corner where they have been burying the dead. He lays him down gently. He does not know the boy's name. He never asked. This child died believing his father was alive somewhere, died waiting for a soldier to save him. Pavlov could not save him. He could not save any of them. He goes back upstairs. He sits on the second floor with his back against the wall. His rifle falls from his hands. He stares at nothing. He thinks about all the small promises he has made to protect the civilians, to hold the building, to send the letters, to matter. And he thinks about how he has failed every single one. Chernusov finds him there an hour later. The older man sits down next to him, moving carefully because his arm is useless now, infected beyond saving. You cannot save everyone. Pavlov does not respond. We are soldiers. We kill. That is what we do. Sometimes people die, and there is nothing we can do about it. Pavlov looks at him. Then what is the point? Why are we here? Chernusov does not have an answer. He just sits there in the dark, his fever making him shake, and neither of them speaks. Outside, they can hear distant artillery. The counteroffensive is working. The Germans are being pushed back. But in this building, in this moment, victory feels very far away. Day 57, November 23, 1942. The attacks have stopped. The Germans are pulling back, consolidating their lines. The 6th Army is surrounded, trapped in a pocket with no supplies, no reinforcements, no hope. Across the square, Pavlov can see them digging trenches, preparing to defend. They have gone from attackers to defenders in the span of a week. Afanasyev calls the men together. We are being rotated out. Fresh troops are coming to relieve us. We cross the river tonight. The men do not cheer. They just nod. Pavlov feels nothing. Relief, exhaustion, grief, everything and nothing at once. They prepare to leave. Pavlov packs his few possessions, the letters from the dead men, the photographs, the small promises he could not keep. He goes down to the basement one last time. Maria is there with the remaining civilians, 12 left out of 17. She does not thank him for holding the building. She does not thank him for fighting. She just looks at him with eyes that have seen too much and says, "We are still here. Some of us are still here." Pavlov nods. He does not know what else to do. He climbs back upstairs as the new soldiers arrive. Young faces, scared faces, faces that do not yet understand what this building costs. He wants to warn them, wants to tell them something. But what would he say? Good luck. Try not to die. Try not to fail the people counting on you. Try not to lose yourself in the killing. He says nothing. He just walks out into the night with the other survivors. 28 men entered this building. 11 walk out. The rest are buried in the basement, or scattered across the square, or lost in ways that do not leave bodies. They cross the Volga on a flat boat. The river is dark and cold. Ice is forming on the edges. Halfway across, Chernusov slumps against Pavlov's shoulder. His fever has broken him. He is muttering prayers, eyes closed. Pavlov holds him upright because that is what you do for your friends. You hold them when they are falling. You carry them when they cannot walk. You bury them when they die. They reach the far shore. Medics take Chernusov away on a stretcher. Pavlov never sees him again. He learns later that the older man died 3 days after the evacuation. Blood poisoning from the infected wound. He died in a hospital bed, not on the battlefield. Pavlov does not know if that is better or worse. A young officer approaches. Fresh uniform, clean face. He looks at the filthy, exhausted men who held the building for 58 days and asks, "How many Germans did you kill?" Pavlov stares at him. He thinks about all the bodies, all the screaming, all the small, broken promises. He thinks about the little boy who died waiting for his father. He opens his mouth to answer, but the words will not come. Alexandrov answers for him. His voice is flat. Dead. We killed enough. The officer waits for more, but there is nothing more to say. The survivors walk away into the night, leaving the building behind them, leaving the dead behind them, carrying the weight of 58 days in a place where hope went to die. February 2nd, 1943, 4 months after Pavlov left the building. The war has moved on, but some men never leave the battlefield. Pavlov is in a military hospital 300 kilometers from Stalingrad. His body is here, lying in a bed with clean white sheets. But his mind is still in that building, still climbing those stairs, still hearing the children crying in the basement. The doctors call it exhaustion, battle fatigue. They say he needs rest. They do not understand that rest is impossible when you close your eyes and see the faces of everyone you could not save. The ward is full of men like him, broken bodies, broken minds. Some of them scream in their sleep. Some of them do not sleep at all. The man in the bed next to Pavlov has no legs. He lost them to frostbite during the retreat from Moscow. He stares at the ceiling all day and does not speak. Across the room, a young lieutenant with half his face burned away writes letters to a woman who will never recognize him when he comes home. Pavlov has been here for 8 weeks. They feed him. They give him medicine. They tell him he is lucky to be alive. He does not feel lucky. He feels empty, like someone scooped out his insides and left only the shell. At night, when the ward is dark, he takes out the letters. 11 letters from Anatoly Chekhov, the sniper, the photograph of Chernigolov and his wife Tatiana, the letter he wrote to her that he still has not sent. He holds these things and tries to remember why they matter. A nurse comes to change his bandages. She is young, maybe 22, with kind eyes and gentle hands. She does not ask him about the war. She just does her job quietly. When she is done, she pauses. "You had a visitor. He came while you were sleeping. Left this." She hands him an envelope. No name, no return address, just his name written in careful script on the front. Pavlov opens it. Inside is a single sheet of paper. The handwriting is shaky, uncertain. It takes him a moment to place it. Then he remembers. Alexandrov, the Ukrainian kid with the machine gun. The letter is short. Sergeant Pavlov, I am in Moscow. They gave me a medal, Hero of the Soviet Union. They had a ceremony. Generals shaking my hand, photographers taking pictures. They asked me to give a speech about the building, about what we did there. I could not do it. I stood at the podium and opened my mouth, and nothing came out. How do you explain 58 days to people who were not there? How do you make them understand? I left before the ceremony was over. I am sorry. I know I should be proud. I know we did something important, but all I can think about is Chernigolov and Chernusov and Chekhov and all the others who did not make it. Why did I survive when they did not? What did I do to deserve this medal when better men are buried in that basement? I do not have answers. I just wanted you to know I am alive. I wanted you to know I remember. Your friend, Alexander. Pavlov folds the letter carefully. He adds it to his collection. He wonders if Alexandrov will survive the guilt. Some men do not. Some men come home from the war and put a gun in their mouth because living is harder than dying. Pavlov understands this. There are mornings when he wakes up and thinks about how easy it would be. Just stop. Just let go. But then he thinks about the letters he promised to send, the small obligations that keep him tethered to the world. A week later, another visitor. Pavlov is sitting in the common room, staring out of the window at the snow-covered courtyard when someone sits down next to him. He does not look up, but then the man speaks, and Pavlov recognizes the voice. Lieutenant Afanasyev, the man who led the defense after Pavlov and his original squad took the building. Afanasyev looks different, older, thinner. There are lines around his eyes that were not there before. They sit in silence for a long time. Then Afanasyev says, "The building still stands. We held it until the end, until the Germans surrendered. 58 days turned into 135. The longest defense of a single building in the history of warfare. They are calling it Pavlov's house now. After you." Pavlov does not respond. Afanasyev continues, "I came to tell you something. Something you need to hear. What you did mattered. Those first 2 days, when it was just you and 3 other men. You gave us time. You proved it could be held. Without that, we would have lost the building. We would have lost the entire sector, maybe the city. You saved thousands of lives." Pavlov finally looks at him. "But I did not save them. The civilians in the basement, the children, they died." Afanasyev meets his gaze. "Some of them died, but 7 survived. Because of you. 7 people who would be dead if you had not held that building. 7 lives. That has to count for something." Pavlov wants to believe him, but 7 lives weighed against all the dead feels like nothing. It feels like a rounding error in a catastrophe. Afanasyev seems to understand this. He stands to leave. Then he says one more thing. "Chernusov died calling your name. In the hospital. Before the infection took him, he was delirious with fever, but he kept saying your name. Over and over, like a prayer. I think he wanted you to know he did not regret it. Any of it. He died with his brothers. He died for something. That mattered to him." Afanasyev leaves. Pavlov sits alone in the common room as the light fades and tries to process this. Chernusov, the coal miner with the shaking hands, dead of an infected wound that could have been treated if they had proper medical supplies. Dead because they held a building in the middle of a city that was being destroyed block by block. Dead because someone decided 4 men should cross a killing ground and seize an apartment building and hold it against an army. That night, Pavlov writes letters to Tatiana Chernigolov, to Anatoly Chekhov's wife, whose name he learned from one of the letters. He tells them their husbands were brave. He tells them they died quickly. He tells them they were thinking of home in the end. All of these things are lies, but they are the kind lies you tell to the living because the truth is too heavy to carry. He seals the envelopes. He addresses them. He gives them to the nurse to mail. One small promise kept. March 15th, 1943. Pavlov is released from the hospital. The doctors say he is fit to return to duty. They are wrong, but the Red Army needs bodies more than it needs healthy men. He is assigned to a reserve unit training new recruits, teaching them how to survive urban warfare, how to clear buildings, how to set ambushes. He is good at it because he has lived it. But every lesson feels like reopening a wound. Every time he teaches them to throw a grenade into a room, he sees Chernusov's face. Every time he shows them how to set up a defensive position, he hears Chernigolov's voice. "Tatiana, Tatiana, Tatiana." The recruits are young, 17, 18, 19. They look at Pavlov with something like awe because they have heard the stories. Pavlov's house, the sergeant who held a building against an entire German division. They do not understand that the story is not heroic. It is just a chronicle of survival purchased with the lives of better men. One of the recruits, a kid named Dmitry from a village in Ukraine, asks him, "What is it like?" "Combat. Real combat." Pavlov looks at him, at his clean uniform and his smooth face and his eyes that have never seen death up close. He wants to tell him the truth. It is chaos. It is terror. It is boredom punctuated by seconds of absolute horror. It is watching your friends die in ways that make no sense. It is killing people and feeling nothing, and then hating yourself for feeling nothing. It is coming home and realizing you are not the same person who left, and you will never be that person again. But instead, Pavlov says, it is hard. Stay close to your squad. Watch your corners. Do not be a hero. Heroes die first. The recruit nods like this is wisdom. Pavlov knows it is not enough. Nothing he says will prepare them. Nothing can. June 1943. A letter arrives. The return address is from a town Pavlov has never heard of, somewhere in the Ural Mountains. He opens it carefully. The handwriting is shaky, clearly from someone who does not write often. Sergeant Pavlov. My name is Maria Ulyanova. I do not know if you remember me. I was in the basement of the building you defended. I survived. So did 6 others. We were evacuated in late November before the final siege. I am writing to tell you something. The little boy, the one who asked if you were his father, his name was Kolya. He died in my arms. But before he died, he said something. He said, "The soldier will come back. The soldier will save us." He believed in you until the end. I wanted you to know that. I wanted you to know that you gave him hope in a place where there was none. That matters. I do not know if it helps, but it matters. With respect, Maria Ulyanova. Pavlov reads the letter 3 times. Then he folds it and puts it with the others. Kolya. The boy finally has a name. Pavlov wonders if that makes it better or worse. He decides it makes it worse. Nameless casualties are statistics. Named casualties are people. People you failed. August 1943. Pavlov is reassigned. Back to a combat unit. The Red Army is pushing west now, driving the Germans back toward their own borders. The war has turned. The Wehrmacht is retreating. But retreating armies are dangerous, cornered, desperate. The fighting is as brutal as ever. Pavlov finds himself in another city, another ruin, another collection of shattered buildings that used to be homes. The names change. Kharkov, Kursk, Minsk. But the war is always the same. Clear the building. Hold the position. Count the dead. Move to the next block. Repeat until you die or the war ends. He meets other survivors of Stalingrad, men who held other buildings, other streets, other impossible positions. They recognize each other without speaking. There is something in the eyes, a flatness, a distance. They have seen the worst humanity has to offer, and they cannot unsee it. They trade stories in quiet moments, not about victories, not about heroism, just about the small absurdities. The time someone found a phonograph in a ruin and played classical music while German artillery hammered the position. The soldier who kept a stray dog as a mascot until a sniper killed it. The officer who insisted on shaving every morning even when they had no water. These small human moments in the middle of inhumanity. These are what they remember. December 1943, winter again. Snow covering the ruins, making everything look clean and peaceful until you look closer and see the bodies frozen in the drifts. Pavlov's unit is in a town whose name he does not bother to learn. They will be here for a week, maybe 2, then move on. He has stopped thinking in terms of months or years. Just today, just this hour, just until the next attack, a runner arrives with a message. Pavlov is being summoned to Moscow to receive a medal, Hero of the Soviet Union, the highest honor the nation can bestow. He does not want to go. He does not want to stand on a stage and be celebrated for surviving when so many others did not. But orders are orders. He goes. Moscow is a different world. Lights, food, people who are not starving or terrified. It feels obscene. Pavlov stands in a grand hall, wearing a clean uniform that does not fit right, while a general pins a gold star to his chest and gives a speech about courage and sacrifice and the indomitable spirit of the Soviet people. Photographers take pictures. People applaud. Pavlov stands at attention and feels nothing. After the ceremony, a journalist approaches him. She is young, enthusiastic, with a notebook and too many questions. Tell me about Pavlov's house. What was it like? How did you do it? What kept you going? Pavlov looks at her. He sees her clean clothes and her bright eyes and her complete inability to understand. He opens his mouth to give her the sanitized version, the version where they were brave soldiers defending the motherland, the version with no dead children and no broken promises and no guilt that never goes away. But instead, he tells her the truth. It was hell. We did it because we had no choice. What kept us going was fear. Fear of dying, fear of failing, fear of being the one who breaks and lets everyone else down. We were not heroes. We were just men trying to survive one more hour. And most of us did not. He walks away before she can ask more questions. He does not care if she writes any of that down. He does not care about anything anymore. January 1944. Pavlov is back at the front. The Red Army has crossed into Poland. They are on German soil now. The roles have reversed. Now they are the invaders. Now German civilians are fleeing ahead of them. Pavlov sees them sometimes. Old people, women with children, struggling through the snow with whatever they can carry. They look just like the Soviet civilians he tried to save in Stalingrad, just as terrified, just as helpless. Some of the Soviet soldiers want revenge. They remember what the Germans did, the burned villages, the massacred civilians, the starvation, the camps. They want to pay it back tenfold. Pavlov understands this, but he cannot participate. He has killed enough. He has seen enough death. When his unit enters a German village and starts rounding up civilians, he walks away. An officer stops him. "Where are you going?" Pavlov does not answer. The officer does not press. Everyone knows about Pavlov's house. Everyone knows he has earned the right to his ghosts. He finds a church. Empty. Cold. The altar has been stripped, but the building still stands. He sits in a pew and stares at the space where a cross used to hang. He thinks about Chernusov praying before every battle. "Protect us from evil and deliver us from temptation." He thinks about the boy Kolya in the basement, saying Tatiana over and over, like the name was a magic spell that could bring his father back. He thinks about all the prayers that went unanswered, all the people who believed that someone was watching over them and died anyway. A German woman enters the church, old, maybe 70. She sees Pavlov's uniform and freezes, terrified. He can see her calculating. Should she run? Should she beg for mercy? Pavlov gestures to the pew. "Sit." She does not understand Russian, but she understands the gesture. She sits down carefully, keeping distance between them. They sit in silence. Two people from opposite sides of a war, sharing space in a ruined church. After a while, she starts crying, quiet, trying to hide it. Pavlov does not ask why. He knows why. War destroys everyone, even the ones who survive. He leaves without speaking. Outside, the snow is falling, beautiful and indifferent, covering the destroyed village, covering the bodies, making everything look peaceful. Pavlov walks back to his unit. He has orders, a town to take, a position to hold. The war continues. It always continues. April 1945. Berlin. The final battle. The Red Army is house to house, block by block, grinding toward the Reichstag. Pavlov is in the middle of it. This is Stalingrad again, but reversed. Now they are the attackers. Now the Germans are defending their capital with the same desperate ferocity the Soviets showed 2 years ago. Pavlov understands them. They are fighting for their homes, for their families, for their lives. The same reasons everyone fights. Politics and ideology fade away when someone is shooting at you. All that is left is survival. His unit clears a building. 4 stories, red brick, windows blown out. It looks like every other building in every other ruined city. But for a moment, just a moment, Pavlov thinks he is back in Stalingrad, back in his building. He freezes on the stairs. His heart is hammering. He cannot breathe. A private behind him asks if he is all right. Pavlov nods, keeps moving, but his hands are shaking. The building is empty. The Germans have already pulled back, but Pavlov's mind is not here. It is 3 years in the past, in a basement full of civilians, with a little boy who believed a soldier could save him. May 8th, 1945. The war in Europe is over. Germany has surrendered. Pavlov is in Berlin when he hears the news. The streets erupt in celebration, soldiers firing their weapons into the air, singing, drinking, embracing, victory. After 4 years, after 27 million dead, victory. Pavlov stands in the middle of the celebration and feels disconnected, like he is watching from a great distance. Men around him are crying, from relief, from joy, from the simple fact that they survived when so many did not. Pavlov does not cry. He has not cried since Stalingrad. Something inside him broke in that building, and it never healed. A month later, he is processed for discharge. The Red Army does not need all its soldiers anymore. They send the ones who are too broken to be useful back to civilian life. Pavlov gets on a train heading east, back toward Russia, back toward whatever comes next. He still has the letters, still has the photographs, still has the small pieces of all the people who did not make it. He does not know what to do with them. He does not know what to do with himself. August 1945. Pavlov returns to the village where he was born, a tiny place in the western part of Russia, population maybe 300. He has not been here since 1940. 5 years. A lifetime. The village looks the same. Smaller than he remembered, but the same. His mother is still alive. She sees him coming down the road and runs to him, crying, holding him. You came back. You came back. So many boys did not come back. Pavlov lets her hold him. He does not tell her that the boy who left in 1940 did not come back. That boy died in Stalingrad. What came home is something else, something hollow. He tries to rebuild a life. He works at the collective farm. He goes through the motions. Wake up, work, eat, sleep, repeat. The other villagers treat him with a kind of careful respect. They know about the medal, about Pavlov's house. They ask him sometimes to tell stories. He declines. They think it is modesty. It is not. It is just that the stories are not the kind you tell. At night, he dreams. Always the same dream. He is back in the building, climbing the stairs, knowing that at the top there is something terrible waiting. He climbs and climbs, but never reaches the top. Just endless stairs, endless climbing. He wakes up with his heart pounding and his sheets soaked with sweat. September 1946. A year after the war ended, Pavlov is in the village square when a car pulls up. Official car, government plates. A man gets out, civilian clothes but military bearing. He asks for Sergeant Pavlov. Pavlov identifies himself. The man introduces himself as a historian. He is writing the official history of the Battle of Stalingrad. He wants to interview survivors, wants to get their stories for the record. They sit at a table outside the village tea house. The historian has a notebook, a pen, prepared questions. He asks about the initial assault, about the tactics, about specific battles. Pavlov answers mechanically, giving facts, dates, numbers. The historian is not satisfied. He wants more. He wants the human story, the heroism, the triumph. He does not understand that there is no heroic way to tell the story of watching children starve to death. Finally, the historian asks, what was the most important moment? The turning point that allowed you to hold. Pavlov thinks about this. He thinks about all the battles, all the close calls, all the moments when they should have died, but somehow did not. Then he realizes the truth. There was no turning point, no key moment, just a series of small choices. Keep fighting or give up. Hold one more hour. Survive one more day. The accumulation of 1,000 small decisions made by exhausted, terrified men who did not want to die but did not know how to quit. He tells the historian this. The man frowns. That is not really what we need for the official history. We need something more concrete, something that shows the superiority of Soviet tactics, the courage of Soviet soldiers, the inevitable victory of socialism. Pavlov stares at him. Then he stands up and walks away. The historian calls after him, but Pavlov does not turn back. He is done with the war, done with the story, done with trying to make sense of something that was senseless from the beginning. November 1952, 7 years after the war. Pavlov gets a letter. The return address is from Volgograd. That is what they renamed Stalingrad, as if changing the name could erase what happened there. The letter is from Maria Ulyanova. She is still alive, still living in the city. She writes that they are building a memorial, a museum. They are restoring the building, Pavlov's house, making it a monument. They want him to come for the dedication, to speak, to be honored. She writes, you should see it. You should see what you saved. Pavlov does not want to go. The thought of returning to that place makes him physically ill. But Maria writes something else at the end of the letter. The 7 of us who survived, we meet every year on November 23rd, the day the siege ended. We remember. We say the names of those who did not make it. We wanted you to know you are always welcome. You are one of us. You will always be one of us. Pavlov folds the letter. He thinks about it for a long time. Then he writes back, I will come. November 23rd, 1952. Pavlov stands in front of Pavlov's house. The building has been partially restored. New brick, where the old brick was blown away. New windows. A plaque on the front. He reads it. This building was defended by a small group of Soviet soldiers for 58 days during the Battle of Stalingrad. Their courage and sacrifice helped turn the tide of the war. It is sanitized, official. It does not mention the civilians in the basement. Does not mention the children who died. does not mention Chernigolov or Chernusov or Chekhov or any of the others whose names deserve to be here. Maria finds him standing there. She is older now, hair completely gray, but her eyes are the same, sharp, aware. She takes his hand. Come. The others are waiting. They go inside, into the basement, into the place where 17 civilians hid from the war. 7 of them are here, middle-aged now, living their lives. They greet Pavlov with quiet warmth. No grand speeches, no ceremony, just acknowledgement. You were there. We were there. We survived. They light candles, 1 for each person who died in this place. 32 candles, 17 soldiers, 15 civilians. They say the names. Pavlov says the ones he knows. Yakov Chernigolov, Anatoly Chernusov, Anatoly Chekhov, Alexander Alexandrov. No, wait, he survived. Pavlov corrects himself. There are gaps in his memory, names he never learned, faces he has forgotten, but the candles burn for all of them. After the names are said, they sit in silence. Then one of the survivors, a man named Pyotr, speaks. I have a son now. Born in 1947. I named him Yakov, after you. I wanted him to carry the name of the man who gave us a chance to live. Pavlov does not know what to say. He manages. I am honored. But inside he is thinking about the other Yakov, Chernigolov, the one who died against a wall, the one whose wife never got the letter. He wonders if he ever sent it. He cannot remember. They leave the basement as the candles burn down. Outside the sun is setting. Pavlov walks through the city. It has been rebuilt. New buildings, new streets, life continuing, children playing, people going about their business. The war is a memory now. History. Something that happened to other people in another time. Pavlov feels like a ghost walking through a world that has moved on without him. He goes to the Volga, stands on the bank where the supply boats used to cross under fire. The river is frozen now, ice forming along the edges, beautiful and peaceful. He thinks about all the men who died trying to cross this river. He thinks about how close they all came to joining them. He thinks about the randomness of survival. Why did he live when others died? What made him special? Nothing. That is the answer. Nothing. He lived because of luck, because German artillery missed him by centimeters, because a bullet hit someone else instead, because he happened to be in the right position at the right moment. Chance. Pure chance. There is no meaning in it, no lesson, no justice, just chaos. He reaches into his coat and pulls out the letters. All of them. Chernigolov's photograph, Chekhov's letters to his wife, Alexandrov's confession, Maria's letter about Kolya, all the pieces of all the people who did not make it. He has been carrying them for 10 years, 10 years of guilt, of obligation, of trying to honor the dead by remembering them. But he realizes now that he cannot carry them anymore. The weight is too much. He is not strong enough. He should burn them or send them to the families. But he cannot do either, so he just stands there on the bank of the Volga, holding the letters, watching the ice form. After a while, Maria appears next to him. She does not ask what he is doing. She just stands with him. Quiet companionship. After a long time, she says, "You know what I remember most? Not the fighting, not the fear. I remember you coming down to the basement that first day, looking at us, looking at the children, and I saw you decide right then that you were going to protect us, or die trying. That mattered, even though some of us died anyway. The fact that you tried, that mattered." Pavlov turns to her. "But I failed. Children died. Kolya died. So many died." Maria shakes her head. "You gave us hope. In the darkest place, in the worst moments, you made us believe that someone cared, that we were not forgotten. That is what I told my children. That is what all the survivors tell our children. In the worst moment of our lives, someone tried to save us. Not because it was his job, but because he thought we mattered. That is what we remember." Pavlov looks at the letters in his hands, then at the river, then at Maria. He makes a decision. A small one, but it feels enormous. He will keep the letters, not as a burden, but as a reminder. These people lived, they fought, they died, they mattered. Forgetting them would be the final betrayal. Remembering them is painful, but pain means they were real. Pain means it meant something. He puts the letters back in his coat. Maria takes his arm. "Come, We are having dinner, all of us, the survivors. You should be there. You are one of us." Pavlov lets her lead him away from the river, away from the ghosts, back toward the warmth and light and the messy, difficult business of living. He does not know if he will ever truly heal. He does not know if healing is possible after what he saw. But maybe that is not the point. Maybe the point is just to keep going. One day at a time, 1 hour at a time, one breath at a time, just like in the building, just like in the war. Survive. Remember, honor the dead by living. The war is over, but for some men, it will never really end. Pavlov's house still stands, a monument to courage, to sacrifice, to survival, but also to cost, to loss, to all the promises that could not be kept. Pavlov looks back at it one last time before he follows Maria into the gathering darkness. The building stands. The survivors endure. The dead are remembered. Maybe that is enough. Maybe that has to be enough.